Welcome! Today Richard learns Fantastic Factories, a 1 to 5 player game by Joseph Z. Chen and Justin Faulkner, published by Metafactory Games. Race against other players to build the most efficient set of factories in the fewest number of rounds. Carefully manage your blueprints, train your workers, and manufacture as many goods as possible in order to achieve industrial dominance. The goal of the game is to be the person with the most amount of points. To set up, take the hammer, wrench, gear, and shovel tokens and place those in a row in the center of the play area. Next, shuffle the contractor for hire cards, deal 1 card under each tool label token, and place the remaining stack to the left of that row. Next, take the blueprint cards, shuffle those together, and likewise reveal 1 blueprint under each tool label token, leaving the remaining cards to be a new blueprint draw pile. And note that although it doesn't matter which order the tool label tokens are placed, once they are placed, they must stay in that order for the remainder of the game. Next, place the energy, metal, 1, and 2 goods tokens, as well as 8 white dice within easy reach of all players. And note that there is no limit to the amount of resources you can have, so if you find yourself needing some, just use a suitable replacement. Next, each player gets a headquarter board. Let's set up a 3-player game. Next, each player chooses a color and takes the dice of that color and places that in their play area. Next, each player takes 1 metal and 2 energy tokens and places their resources in their play area. Next, each player gets 4 blueprint cards, and you are free to look at your own cards at any time. Finally, give each player a double-sided player aid. The solo player aid is only used during a single player game, so for a 2 to 5 player game, leave it in the box. The player who used a tool most recently goes first and receives the first player token. Points can be earned in 2 ways, prestige and goods. Each card in your compound is worth the prestige value printed on its top right corner. Additionally, production factories can manufacture goods that you accumulate throughout the game. Your total score is the number of goods you have plus your total prestige. Each round consists of 2 phases, the market phase and the work phase. During the market phase, each player, starting with the player holding the first player token and moving clockwise from there, chooses either a blueprint or contractor card. To choose a blueprint card, choose one of the 4 face-up blueprint cards and add it to your hand of blueprints. Refill that now empty spot, and the next player will choose 1 card. To gain a contractor card, first I will draw your attention to the tokens above the cards. Let's say I wanted this architect card. To be able to gain it, I must first look in my hand, find a matching symbol, discard that card from my hand into the blueprints discard, and then I may choose and resolve immediately this card. So for example, I have to draw 3 cards, then pick an opponent to draw 1 blueprint card. When resolved, place that card into discard and refill the now empty spot. If a contractor card has a special symbol by the title, that means you must pay the blueprint cost as well as the extra cost printed by the title. Alternatively, a player could change all of the contractor or all of the blueprint cards. They can discard one of their metal or energy tokens, then discard one of the rows of their choosing, and refill that with all new cards. Just note that each player can only do this once on their turn, so they could not pay a second time to discard all the contractors or pay a second time to discard more blueprints, for example. Once the row of their choosing has been refilled, they may then take a card. If during gameplay you ever ran out of either draw pile, take the discard pile that you ran out of, shuffle it, and use that as your new draw pile. There are 5 blueprint types. The blue production cards, which manufacture goods, the yellow utility cards, which produce resources, the red training cards, which train your workers, allowing them to modify their values, the gray monument cards, which have no activation but are worth more prestige points, and the purple special cards, which have unique effects. When it comes to understanding blueprint cards, first we have the cost in the upper left section. In the upper right section is the amount of prestige points it is worth. Some cards have spots where you can place dice. And at the bottom of each card is what is required for an effect and after the arrow, what the effect is. In this example, you would need to place 2 dice of the same number to gain 1 good token and either 2 metal, 2 blueprints, or 3 energies. Or in this example, spend a certain amount of energies, let's say 2 for our example, and gain an extra die with that value this turn. If you're ever unsure of how to interpret a card, there's an excellent appendix in the back of the book. At the bottom of the card are these 2 little rectangles, which just indicates how many of these cards there are in the deck. Next is the work phase. All players play this phase simultaneously. If it's your first time, you may wish to do this in player order just to get used to it. This phase begins with each player rolling their dice. After that, players in any order can place their dice, build, and activate their cards. Let's start with taking basic actions in our headquarters. When placing dice in the mine, they must be a 4, 5, or 6, and each die will gain you 1 metal. So if you place a 4 in the first location, take 1 metal from the general supply and place it with the rest of your supplies. If you place a die in the generate energy locations, you gain as many energy as there are pips on that die. And each die must be a 1, 2, or 3. So if we place this 3 in the generate energy location, choose 3 energy tokens and place that in your play area. And on the research floor, if you place any die in one of these locations, you draw a single blueprint card. So let's take the 6 and place that there. Draw a blueprint card from the face down deck and add it to your hand. Next, we can see that there is a match bonus. So if we have 2 dice that are the same number, we would get 1 extra of the location that they're in. So for example, if we put this 4 with the other 4, we would gain 1 metal for placing it in the mine, plus a second metal for matching. So when 2 dice match, you get 1 extra, or if all 3 match, you get 2 extra. So in this case, we have 1. So we have another 1, which matches this one, which gains us 1 more energy plus 1 bonus, and another 1, which in this case will gain us 1 energy and 1 more bonus, for a total extra bonus of 2. So our purple player will take 1 metal, 3 energy, 2 more energy, and a blueprint card to add to their hand. As the game progresses, you will build more locations for you to place dice. So let's learn about building into our compound right now. To build a card, choose a card from your hand, pay the cost in the upper left corner, then place it in your compound. So this harvester, for example, would need another hammer card to be discarded from your hand. So we have 1 hammer, 2 gears, and another hammer card. So let's discard this robot card into the blueprint discard, as well as 2 energy and 1 metal into their general supplies. You may now place that card inside your compound and even use its power on the same turn that you built it. And remember, it doesn't matter in what order you do this. You can make gains this turn, and you can utilize those gains in the same turn. Just note that once a space has been used, it cannot be used again this turn. Also note that once a card is in your compound, you cannot have a second copy of that building. So this recycling plant cannot be made by the red player. It would have to be discarded to build another building. Unless otherwise stated, of course. This beacon, for example, has different prestige points based on how many beacons are in the compound, as well as explicitly stating you may build more than 1 beacon. When you activate a card that allows you to draw blueprints, the rule for this phase is the same for the card as it is for the basic location, which is that cards must be drawn from the blueprint deck, not one of the face-up market cards. At the end of the work phase, but before the first player token passes on to the next player, be sure each player has 12 or fewer resources. So in this case, we have 11 energy and 2 metal for a total of 13. So 1 must discard. So let's take 1 energy in this example. As well, players may only have a maximum of 10 cards. So now would be the time to discard down to 10. And now everyone removes the dice from their compound and headquarters and return any clear dice back to the main supplies. The first player token then gets passed clockwise to the next player. The end game is triggered when either one player plays 10 cards into their compound, or a player has manufactured 12 goods. In either case, Finish the round, play one more round, then the game is over. Finally, to see who won, add up the goods, so 14 in this case, and add that to the total amount of prestige points, so 16 prestige points equals 30 points altogether. The player with the highest score wins. If there is a tie for point value, the player with most metal wins. If there is a tie for most metals, the player with the most energy wins. If there is also a tie for energy, the player with the most blueprints wins. And if there's still a tie, those players share the victory. Thank you for joining me to learn fantastic factories. Have fun, and I invite you to join me next time as I do a playthrough.